Well, let me ask also about the immune system you mentioned. A lot of people kind of ask, you know, how can we strengthen the immune system to respond to this particular virus, but the viruses in general? Do you have, from a biological perspective, thoughts on what we can do as humans to
If you look
strengthen
at
our
the
immune
death
system?
rates across different countries, people with less vaccination have been dying more. If you look at North Italy, the vaccination rates are abysmal there, and a lot of people have been dying. If you look at Greece, very good vaccination rates, almost no one has been dying. So yes, there's a policy component. So Italy reacted very slowly. Greece reacted very fast. So yeah, many fewer people died in Greece. But there might actually be a component of genetic immune repertoire. Basically, how did people die off, in the history of the Greek population versus the Italian population?
Wow.
There's a
That's interesting to think about.
and then there's a component of what vaccinations did you have as a kid and what are the off-target effects of those vaccinations. So basically, a vaccination can have two components. One is training your immune system against that specific insult. The second one is boosting up your immune system for all kinds of other things. If you look at allergies, Northern Europe, super clean environments, tons of allergies. Southern Europe, my kids grew up eating dirt, no allergies. So growing up, I never had even heard of what allergies are. I was like, really, allergies? And the reason is that I was playing in the garden. I was putting all kinds of stuff in my mouth from, all kinds of dirt and stuff, tons of viruses there, tons of bacteria there. My immune system was built up. So the more you protect your immune system from exposure, the less opportunity it has to learn about non-self repertoire in a way that prepares it for the next insult.
So that's the horizontal thing too, so it's throughout your lifetime and the lifetime of the people that your ancestors, that kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
What about so again, it returns against free will. On the free will side of things, is there something we could do to strengthen our immune system in 2020? Is there exercise, diet, all that kind of stuff?
So it's kind of funny. There's a cartoon that basically shows two windows with a teller in each window. One has a humongous line, and the other one has no one. The one that has no one above says health. No, it says exercise and diet, and the other one says pill. Yeah. And there's a huge line for pill. So we're looking basically for magic bullets for sort of ways that we can, beat cancer and beat coronavirus and beat this and beat that. And it turns out that the window with just diet and exercise is the best way to boost every aspect of your health. If you look at Alzheimer's, exercise and nutrition. I mean, you're like, really? For my brain? Neurodegeneration? Absolutely. If you look at cancer, exercise and nutrition. If you look at coronavirus, exercise and nutrition, every single aspect of human health gets improved. And one of the studies we're doing now is basically looking at what are the effects of diet and exercise. How similar are they to each other? We basically take in diet intervention and exercise intervention in human and in mice. And we're basically doing single cell profiling of a bunch of different tissues to basically understand how are the cells, both the stromal cells and the immune cells of each of these tissues, responding to the effect of exercise. What are the communication networks between different cells where the muscle that exercises sends signals through the bloodstream, through the lymphatic system, through all kinds of other systems that give signals to other cells that I have exercised and you should change in this particular way, which basically reconfigure those receptor cells with the effect of exercise. So again,
how well understood is those reconfigurations?
Very little. We're just starting now, basically.
Is the hope there to understand the effect on the effect on the immune system?
On the immune system, the effect on brain, the effect on your liver, on your digestive system, on your adipocytes. Adipose, the most misunderstood organ. Everybody thinks, oh, fat, terrible. No, fat is awesome. Your fat cells is what's keeping you alive. Because if you didn't have your fat cells, all those lipids and all those calories would be floating around in your blood and you'd be dead by now. Your adipocytes are your best friend. They're basically storing all these excess calories so that they don't hurt all of the rest of the body. And they're also fat burning in many ways. So, again, when you don't have the homozygous version that I have, your cells are able to burn calories much more easily by sort of flipping a master metabolic switch that involves this FTO locus that I mentioned earlier and its target genes, IRX3 and RX5, that basically switch your adipocytes during their 3 first days of differentiation as they're becoming mature adipocytes to basically become either fat burning or fat storing fat cells. And the fat burning fat cells are your best friends. They're much closer to muscle than they are to white adipocytes.
Is there a lot of difference between people like that you could give science could eventually give advice that is very generalizable, or is our differences in our genetic makeup, like you mentioned, is that going to be basically something we have to be very specialized to individuals? Any advice we give in terms of diet, like we were just talking about?
Believe it or not, the most personalized advice that you give for nutrition don't have to do with your genome. They have to do with your gut microbiome, with the bacteria that live inside you. So most of your digestion is actually happening by species that are not human inside you. You have more non-human cells than you have human cells. You're basically a giant bag of bacteria with a few human cells along.
And so and those do not necessarily have to do with your genetic makeup.
They interact with your genetic makeup. They interact with your epigenome. They interact with your nutrition. They interact with your environment. They're, basically an additional source of variation. So when you're thinking about sort of personalized nutritional advice, part of that is actually how do you match your microbiome, and part of that is how do we match your genetics. But again, this is a very diverse set of contributors, and the effect sizes are not enormous. So I think the science for that is not fully developed yet.
Speaking of diets, because I've wrestled in combat sports my whole life where weight matters. So you have to cut and all that stuff. Yeah. One thing I've learned a lot about my body, and it seems to be, I think, true about other people's bodies, is that you can adjust to a lot of things. That's the miraculous thing about this biological system is like I fast often. I used to eat like 5-6 times a day and thought that was absolutely necessary. How could you not eat that often? And then when I started fasting, your body adjusts to that, and you learn how to not eat. I know. And it was if you just give it a chance for a few weeks, actually, over a period of a few weeks, your body can adjust to anything. Yeah. And that's a miracle. That's such a beautiful thing.
So I'm a computer scientist, and I've basically gone through periods of 24 hours without eating or stopping. And, then I'm like, ooh, must eat. And I eat a ton. I used to order 2 pizzas just with my brother, and, so I've gone through these extremes as well. And I've gone the whole intermittent fasting thing. So I can sympathize with you both on the 7 meals a day to the 0 meals a day. So I think when I say everything with moderation, I actually think your body responds interestingly to these different changes in diet. I think part of the reason why we lose weight with pretty much every kind of change in behavior is because our epigenome and the set of proteins and enzymes that are expressed and our microbiome are not well suited to that nutritional source. And therefore, they will not be able to sort of catch everything that you give them. And then, a lot of that will go undigested. And that basically means that your body can then, lose weight in the short term, but very quickly will adjust to that new normal. And then we'll be able to sort of perhaps gain a lot of weight from the diet. So anyway, there's also studies in factories where basically people, dim the lights, and then suddenly everybody started working better. It was like, wow, that's amazing. 3 weeks later, they made the lights a little brighter. Everybody started working better. Yeah. So any kind of intervention has a placebo effect of, wow, now I'm healthier and I'm going to be running more often, et cetera. So it's very hard to uncouple the placebo effect of, wow, I'm doing something to intervene on my diet from the, wow, this is actually the right thing for me. So,
Yeah, from the perspective from nutrition science, psychology, both things I'm interested in, especially psychology, it seems that it's extremely difficult to do good science because there's so many variables involved. It's so difficult to control the variables, so difficult to do sufficiently large-scale experiments, both sort of in terms of number of subjects and temporal, like how long you do the study for, that it just seems like it's not even a real science for now, like nutrition science.